Hey, okay. So it's Sunday. We're in the rotation. You know what that means? It's time to spark it up, time to chill out, time to jump in this rotation. I really got to get a new PC. The lag is killing me. So, but this one I think is from 2019, so it's been about 5 years, but it's too much. It's too much.
It's okay. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lag in conversation, right?
No, no, no. It's just on my screen on my end. Like it's still on the loading screen for the title shot.
It's all good. I'll take care of the way it looks, man. Just talk
Yeah.
to me, brother.
No, yeah, man. So look, we got a great show.
Oh, your microphone went out.
See, that's what. But no, I'm back. I'm back. So
Yeah.
look, we got a great show today. Technical difficulties aside, Gary will be in the studio soon. I'll be heading out early today, but I am pretty excited for.
Yeah, that just goes to show that we're not podcasters. We're not podcast engineers or anything. We gotta learn this stuff to do what we do. We're
Yeah,
activists, baby. We're grassroots.
that's right. That's
You
right.
know.
We don't have a staff behind the scenes. This isn't the Joe Rogan experience. This is the
Yeah,
rotation. It's
it's just
gritty in
a
here.
rotation experience.
Exactly. It's
You get
gritty.
a couple of potheads, a couple. We're all millennials, right? Gary's older, but Gary's a boomer.
Gary's an
Um,
elder boomer. Yeah.
yeah, you get two millennials and a boomer talking about marijuana legalization, trying to reach the Gen Z audience, and it just all goes awry.
I like the Gen Zers. You know, people give them a lot of flack because they're the Tide Pod eating generation. But when we had Nate Douglas on a few weeks back, I mean, he was like, "Yeah, I don't see what's wrong with anybody or having a couple of ounces of weed." And I'm like, "Jesus Christ, we just wanted to have a few joints as millennials. These Gen Zers are like nothing wrong with a few ounces." I'm like, "Yeah, your generation gets it. I love it."
No, I wanted the ounces. I wanted pounds, baby.
I just don't want people to go to jail for wanting to feel better, you know? And that's one of the things that has really struck me over the past week. I've been reading this amazing book by Normal's National Normal's deputy director Paul Armentano, and it's clinical applications for cannabis and cannabinoids, and it's got just amazing fact sheets, reference material, talks about everything from how cannabis can help with HIV symptoms to Huntington's disease, GI disorders, sleep apnea, epilepsy, ALS, autism, Alzheimer's knowledge. So they actually have this available at National Normal's website for a small, monetary donation. You can get one sent to your house. I'd recommend it, especially this Thanksgiving, if you're going to be arguing with that uncle who only watches Fox News and likes to mainline, when he gets off a parlor.
That's right. You gotta prepare for the holidays nowadays. You got people that are like, marijuana will make you gay.
You know, I actually in February debated, and we actually had him on the show after session, Barney Bishop, who is one of the top lobbyists for the private prison industry. But I did my research on him, and in college, I mean, this guy was a top debate team star, from like the Ivy Leagues and whatnot. So he's a beast, and
You could tell because like the way he would talk, it would be formed in ways that it would be like, maybe I agree with him. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like it would be hard to disagree with him.
yeah.
But I think at one point he tried to pull gateway theory out, and it just did not work out.
No, he did that to me in the debate, and I was prepared. Like I thought, I put myself in his shoes. What are all the things he's going to throw? What about the kids? What about gateway theory? What about birth defects? And I had my research ready, and thankfully, to Paul Armentano as deputy director of Normal. I mean, a man who's been there for pretty much 3 decades, fighting in this role as an activist, and been with Normal over 25 years. He's compiled an amazing review of scientific literature. You don't have to be a PhD. You just need to know, how to find academic research. I mean, and there's some amazing scientific academic research out there to help refute what we see coming out of think tanks and what we see coming out of lobbying groups. You got groups like Smart Approaches to Marijuana, SAM, which is run by Kevin Sabet, who was a drug czar under both Bush administration and did drug policy under the Obama administration. I mean, and
So it's not so smart
you
approaches to marijuana.
yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Man, everything's like how you say it. There was, it doesn't have to do with marijuana, but there was a lady that walked into my St. Pete store the other day, and she had a petition with her. And she was actually anti-abortion, but she was like framing it in such a way that it was like, it confused some people that were in the store. So rhetoric's everything nowadays, man. Like
Yeah,
you gotta be prepared. You gotta go with facts. And
yeah.
Gary's here. He's got all the facts.
Well, since Gary's here, Carlos, why don't we start jumping into the news as soon as he gets settled, and I'll read off the latest headlines for everyone. Um, in the meantime,
Go ahead. I hear you.
no, go ahead and run the news. The news promo. Awesome. So, look, when it comes to the latest in the news, one of the biggest things that affecting this country and marijuana policy is the ineffective nature of the Republican Party to elect a Speaker of the House. They have more Republicans in Congress right now than Democrats in the House of Representatives, and they cannot settle on who should lead them. And there's been this fight after Speaker Kevin McCarthy was removed by an effort from Matt Gaetz. For making these budget deals and such. The government is still going to shut down come right before Thanksgiving if a budget deal is not reached. And they don't even have a speaker right now to make these things happen. And the reason I bring that up because it affects so many other bills that have to do with cannabis and marijuana reform. Everything from the farm bill, which we all know the 2018 farm bill essentially decriminalized hemp and allowed for businesses like yours, Carlos, to exist. To where the 2023 farm bill is essentially on continuing resolution through the end of the year, but they got to figure out ways to do that. I mean, we got other bills that have been attached and other amendments and riders into budget things having to do from not drug testing members of the armed forces to allowing the FBI and CIA to not use positive cannabis testing against recruits and such. I mean, I got to be real. It is getting harder and harder to find millennials and Gen Zers, who don't use cannabis for some type of medicinal purpose. If you think about it, the world that our two generations have been born in, the amount of information that we have to know that we're on a spinning rock in the vastness of space, and there are people who should be in nursing homes rather than in Congress making these decisions.
I'm a little worried though, man. I see Gen Z having some negative views on cannabis sometimes, man. And I don't know. Maybe it's just because like when the Florida cannabis movement was going on, it was like the top of the cannabis movement, I think. And it just seemed like everybody agreed that cannabis was a good thing that could do no wrong. And now you got Gen Z people claiming CHS, and I've had like I don't know if it's just employer woes or anything like that, but I've had like employees that are talking about like how cannabis makes them lazy, and like you're working in like a cannabis store. You know what I mean? Like how is that an excuse? Like you're talking to like a normal activist right now. How are you going to be like, oh, I couldn't do that because I was smoking marijuana?
That it's a crutch, and that's the thing that a lot of people like when we look at people who go to rehab for cannabis. I've been through rehab for cannabis, court ordered, not by choice, but I can tell you is that the one thing that rehab wants you to do is address your own shortcomings and deal with what you're not doing right in your own life. And for many people, they'll use some type of substance as a crutch. But the truth is that it's the individual. You're absolutely right, Carlos. It's not the substance in most cases.
I think there's an effort. Like I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's like this been this effort by the people are gonna hate me for saying this, but an effort by the right. What I mean? Like there was pre-pandemic Suncoast Normal. Our Facebook like page was like just crazy. Like our Twitter. Oh man, the camera loves you, Gary. Our Twitter was going crazy too, man. Like we were like, and our Facebook's page is still out there. It's
Yeah,
we're still got the like I think we're like 12,000 followers at this point.
13,000, 13,000.
13,000 followers, but
But we're also shadow banned.
yeah, we're shadow banned. So like social media, like across all efforts of social media, all boards of social media, there's been an effort to like quiet this marijuana message, right? And
Yeah,
like some companies can't advertise and shit like that. Like, and
yeah.
the MMJs can't advertise, MMTCs can't advertise on there either. So I don't know. I think it's allowed for a certain portion of this Gen Z group to be like anti-marijuana and like even pro-pharmaceutical in some ways.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, they are the first generation from birth, to now to be push pharmaceuticals. The millennials were the guinea pig generation.
Yeah,
And these kids have been grown up on ADHD meds and everything else, antidepressants, and it's like, you got Gen Xers that are like just smoke weed. What's wrong with you kids?
I want to hear from a boomer right now. I want to hear what Gary thinks about all this. Oh shit, your mic. Okay,
Oh,
go.
is that why I haven't got a voice?
What's
I
up?
mean, I grew up in the age before generics, and that you had to have a brand name thing, and there was uh, there was medicines that had been centuries old that we were still using, like castor oil for kids and things of that sort. And then came along things like Ritalin. Ritalin was a big game changer for anybody who thought that their kid was just too active. Just go ahead and drug him before he gets to school.
Yeah,
And Ritalin is like chemically identical to like cocaine and crack.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Adderall was like meth.
I mean, that was a big step away from Dr. Spock, who basically just said, you deprive your kids of of bad thoughts, and eventually they'll all start just moving in the right direction, and coddle them as much as possible,
Yeah.
which was another big step away. So it's been an evolution of how to raise kids, and obviously, I grew up quite well.
Well, as we talk about the news and talking about politics, one of the things that people often get wrong right now, because Carlos, you mentioned about the high point of the marijuana reform movement, feeling like 2016, 2017 was that high point for us, and
like marijuana,
pre-pandemic.
no wrong.
Yeah, and then here we are now. The elections happening this fall, actually next month in Virginia, is going to set the stage of whether or not legal marijuana sales move forward or they roll back all the progress they've made, determining of which political party takes control of that state. So elections matter, politics matters.
Yeah.
And the mission of cannabis is not over. Just because you have legal cannabis in your state doesn't mean that one or two election cycles later, politicians can come around and take everything away. And that's on the cusp of Virginia. But Carlos, we're seeing that right now in Florida. Nikki Fried, as agricultural commissioner, took that 2018 farm bill that was passed under the Trump administration and allowed for hemp businesses to get licensed, over 10,000. And now you see those same businesses targeted by the Wilton Simpson and his administration and the Florida GOP and whoever is donating to them to try and shut y'all down from selling hemp-based products that have any type of THC cannabinoid in it.
And that's what I'm saying too. It was like, you see this like kind of break in between activists that from the 2016 era who it tends to be the people that ended up getting a job for a fucking dispensary.
Well,
but they'll literally badmouth hemp, and they'll take the time to like badmouth an industry that's allowing a lot of people to get relief.
Well, one thing that the Gen Zers and the Gen Xs and millennials have to deal with that us boomers had already figured out was that there's being a lot of mind control being done by social media. I
Yeah.
mean, it started out with the cigarette companies telling our parents that tobacco was safe, even though there was already medical reports saying that it caused cancer. So let's just ignore that part, push that part, get as many kids as possible into tobacco, so that when they become adults, they are officially addicted, kind of situation. Um, it, but we didn't have social media back in the '80s, and that was at a time when cannabis started to thrive as part of counterculture kind of situation. And so we didn't even get these kind of messages. Nowadays, they can creep messages into social media to change the zeitgeist, or the gestalt shaft, the way we used to call it, the way people think about things, the
I,
paradigm.
I'm telling you, there was a big shift when social media platforms decided to shadow ban cannabis messages. Right. It was a great platform to advertise. There was a time when like all you had to do was post an event to Facebook and you could get people there.
I mean, yeah,
Um,
we used to post events and 40 people would show up to a normal member meeting
yeah,
pre-pandemic.
yeah, and it was great, and we were able to say our message and whatnot. But now, it's quiet. It's hard to get people to events now, and I it allows for another message to be presented, and it really does. Like there's things out there. The laziness
Well,
uh
let's get into
stigma is
where the
coming back.
source of the messages are. And I'm gonna sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist, but I'll try to stay away from
Let's
that
do it,
kind of
Gary. I like it.
because
Go down the rabbit hole. Let's go
my
to
far right folks who have at least one new conspiracy a day just to be able to live. Uh, Basically, you have to think about who is the source of the messages and what is their long game.
Uh,
I think a lot of it has to do in regards to these stores being shut down, is to give more power to the MSOs and to the MMTCs. And in fact, a lot of the social marketing is coming from them. That's creeping into the social media. That's creating the paradigm that a lot of the Gen Zers are looking at right now. Because again, it's all a matter of squeezing folks towards their profit base and away from the other profit bases.
hmm
And we see it time and time again, just in the bills that certain MSOs. I'm not going to say who truly, but we're going to say that
Truly.
we're going to say that certain bills that were supported throughout various states of the country were basically to set up the demise of the smoke shop dispensary, or they want to call it over the counter marijuana, right?
And what's funny too is like you talk about how like messages were distributed back in like the 70s, 80s, and whatnot, and like that at that time, head shops were everything. You would go there to pick up your marijuana themed magazines or whatnot, and to get informed on what's like going on with the movement and going on with this culture.
Also, they were centers of free speech. You could get your nudie magazine, a vibrator, and some condoms.
Yeah, you could.
Speaking of condoms, I came across an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. I think it was the other day. I was changing channels for some odd reason, and there was this one time where the older guy was responsible for passing out the Halloween candies. Didn't know what was in the house when they ran out, and found this huge bowl of foil wrapped condoms, and started passing them out to the kids.
Look, Halloween is coming up, and I'm glad you brought that up, Gary. Uh,
Yeah, what a great segue.
yeah,
Yeah, I thought of it.
every year, the prohibitionists continue to run the line about there's going to be edibles in your kids' Halloween candy, and if you have kids and you are a cannabis user, please go through their candy and look for edibles. You're going to be sadly disappointed.
Yeah, let's face it. The average stoner doesn't like your kids that much to give away their medicine and the stuff that they have spent $20 for 10 of them to just pass them out at the same rate as Tootsie Rolls. And
It,
that's why kids play is so successful in Halloween, because it's so much cheaper than the big bags of chocolate bars, which are continually getting more and more expensive. It's practically getting to the price of edibles. Come to think of it.
This one year, I offered to watch my friends' kids while they were trick or treating. I did it because I thought I'd be able to get free weed.
yeah.
It didn't happen. I wasted a whole goddamn Halloween.
Let me say something as a millennial who grew up watching PSAs from the Ninja Turtles. Okay. Michelangelo promised me that I would be offered free drugs so often that I would have to just say no. And I can tell you, as an adult, no one has ever offered me free weed.
Man, dude, I'm sorry.
It's just it's ironic the propaganda that we've had over the years around cannabis in trying to dispel it, and it's created major issues. And most recently, a survey came out among health professionals who treat cancer patients, and 100% of respondents said that they are not prepared through their medical school training to talk about cannabis with folks who are the group that need it the most.
Right.
But when it came time to go to Tallahassee and start promoting these anti-cannabis messages, again pushing the whole idea that all we're trying to do is give out free drugs to kids, kind of situation. They showed a huge big board full of California packaging. No offense to you guys in California, but fuck you. you you can't take somebody else's copyright and go ahead and put it on your package. It's a theft of intellectual property. It's lazy marketing, and yeah, they have little packages that look like fun-sized candies over in California, but here in Florida, if some kid gets a white package with black lettering on it, obviously they're not going to eat it anymore than
I'm going to break something to you guys, being that the owner of retail had like pipe situation. I go to these cash and carry distributors, and you can definitely pick up those bags at like a big stack of those bags at those distributors. Some shops do sell them, and people put their illicit street marijuana in there. And I'm willing to bet, like, dude, like, I'm telling you, if I was 16 and I got caught with like a bag of weed with that, packaging, I would definitely tell my parents. I was like, "Oh, it's hemp. It's hemp." You know what I mean?
I bought it legally.
I bought it legally at the gas station.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
I would definitely do that, and
we did have one house on our block that used to pass out little flyers about the church and the Bible and things of that sort. And we avoided that house like the plague.
Can't you like roll joints with Bible pages?
I guess you could, but those little tiny flyers with the cartoon pictures of people being slapped and and Jesus coming down and saving them.
Holy shit.
It's just not the kind of candy I was looking for.
Well, if anybody's going to be distributing marijuana candy this Halloween, please let Suncoast Normal know. And the whole board of directors will put on Halloween costumes and go to your house.
And we will clean you out.
And we will clean you the fuck out.
Yes, and we will do it for the children. We will do it for the kids because I'm a patriot.
But yeah, if you don't want to do that, maybe just come to our Halloween party.
Indeed. HalloWEED is our annual fundraiser that we have for criminal justice reform. It is one of our most popular, and it is a costume party. We've had it pretty much every single year with the exception of the lockdown years during the pandemic. But HalloWEED 2023 is coming up this Friday, October 27th. Doors open at 8:00. We got some amazing vendors and awesome sponsors. Shout out to the Florida Cannabis Festival for being our title sponsor. Thank you to Chillum and High Times Trucks for being our community sponsors, and shout out to Cushy Pies for being a small business sponsor. You'll have the opportunity to interact with all of our amazing sponsors and vendors at the event. We're going to have live music. We'll have food and drinks. We're going to have the costume contest. There's a cash prize.
Before you get into the costume contest,
go ahead.
That should be the grand finale. I just want to point out one thing that we haven't been able. The camera loves me, and we'll go with it. So I just want to point out one thing. All right, we had this Chillum social hour last night over in St. Petersburg. It's a collaboration between Chillum Mushroom and Hemp Dispensary.
I'm sorry, where is your store in St. Petersburg? Where is it on Central Avenue?
It's in 1916 Central Avenue.
1916 Central Avenue,
which is across from
1916,
across the street from the museum.
Across the street from the Glass Museum.
We collaborated with this group called Urban Flow last night. Urban Flow it's this couple that like you know, I believe there was some sort of illicit drug use at one point, but then everybody recovered. And then they dedicated their life. You know what? Actually, instead of drug, it might be alcohol because that would make a lot more sense with their business. But they dedicated their life to promoting these like alcohol-free spirits and beers, and promoting that as like a great you know, way to spend your time as opposed to like just like dumping yourself into alcohol culture all the time. So last night we had the social hour and we had this Flora gin, right? So it's gin, right? It tastes like gin, and I had a gin and tonic with it, right? It tasted like a gin and tonic. I swear to you, it tasted just like a gin and tonic, but there was no alcohol in it. You know what it had? Delta 9 THC. I got stoned instead of drunk.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was really good.
Yeah, there are a lot of states with that when it comes to the laws in regards to consumption lounges say that you can't sell or distribute alcohol at these facilities. They don't want folks crossfading,
Yeah.
and that is just the law. That's just what everybody has to follow. Again, it's a loss of a revenue stream, but this is an option. This is an
Yeah.
option to go ahead and cover that, because folks do like mocktails too. I gotta say that is kind of a clever way of moving things.
And I think it's more appropriate for a marijuana themed costume party. You know what I mean?
I'm
Yeah.
curious to see how you can come up with another costume that makes you into an atheist stoner. I have yet to see a different one each year.
Should I disclose my costume on the show today?
Now let's leave
Should
it.
I
to the,
disclose it? It's going to be a good one.
Well, look, you know, for those of you who are thinking, you know, what are you going to wear? The best stoner themed costume will win the cash prize this year. So, you know, whether you're going to dress up like Cheech and Chong, or you want to dress up as a Bud, maybe you want to dress up as a rolling paper or a big blunt, who knows? I'm pretty excited to see how creative people
All right.
choose to get.
I'm going as Matt Gates. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't
Stay
supposed to
away.
give that away.
It's a good thing it's a 21 and up party.
Well, people, yeah. Because people
So-
often confuse me with him constantly.
All right, I'm going to disclose my costume because I said, you know, I'm disqualified from the costume contest since, you know, I'm deputy director. But I'm going to go as Bluntman from Bluntman and Chronic.
I dig it. I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig
Yeah.
it.
Is that one of the freaky Fur brothers?
No, Gary, that's from Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, I've never watched them.
Yes, yes. Hey, it's a millennial thing. What do you expect? So
Is it like Beavis and Butthead?
Jay is, yeah, I would say Jay and Silent Bob are very run parallel to Beavis and Butthead. They're both unemployed. They both kind of spend their days kind of just lounging out. You know, Jay and Silent Bob typically in front of either a corner store.
Drinking beers, beers. Smoking fatties, rolling blunts. Who's supposed to blunts? We smoke the
With the
blunts.
blunts.
I gotta catch up. I'm still working on all the Rick and Morty episodes right now, and I've been told I shouldn't be watching those anymore because I guess the writer got in trouble.
Well, he was actually found. He was vindicated in last
very good.
respect, but he still lost his. And that's part of. You know, we were talking about cultural differences earlier. One of the things about Gen Z is they are quick to cancel people, really quick, and then when they get vindicated, I mean, look at Johnny Depp. He got canceled from Disney, and now they're begging him to come back. Because, you know, come to find out it was Amber Heard the whole time who was you know the person in that relationship that was, you know, the abuser. Sad. You know what else is sad? According to the FBI, police arrested over 250,000 potheads last year.
Yeah, I saw that. It's actually gone up.
Well, you know, the peak of prohibition arrests were between 2007 and 2008, right there between the, you know, end of the Bush administration. You know, but things have kind of tapered off. But, you know, prohibition is still there. These are folks that are, you know, only half the country has adult use. You know, and you can see the big blotches. I mean, it's the American South, and then there's, you know, up there in the Mountain West regions. It's sad, but, you know, we're seeing progress on micro levels. You know, for example, in Lubbock, Texas, they've got enough signatures to put decriminalization on their ballot for a city ordinance. In Anchorage, Alaska, the municipal government has adopted employment protections and ended, pre-employment testing for cannabis. And so we're seeing progress happen at some levels. Even the state of Ohio is voting right now with early voting, and in a couple weeks, that hopefully they'll become the latest adult use state. But here in Florida, you can still go to jail for more than 20 grams on you, and you can still have less than 20 grams, and cops can lie on a police report and push it up to a felony. That happened to me. It's one of the reasons why we have this normal chapter.
Chris, did you happen to spill any distillate on your keyboard this morning?
No.
I'm just seeing some time dilation on your part. You're moving in slow motion on the screen, which is
Yeah, that's because this.
I can't handle that sober.
I thought it was the mushrooms.
I thought it was the mushroom.
No, my computer is 5 years old, and for some reason, it is having some major issues, especially with Chrome and everything else. And so I'm fighting really hard not to buy a new laptop, but it looks like I'm gonna have to break down and get
But
one.
Either way,
that looks kind of like my first mushroom experience. Everybody was just basically moving in slow motion for a while, and I thought it was that Star Trek episode,
I know Kano has to go pretty soon. I know, and I said
I did want to bring up one thing before he heads out, and that was this bill that had just been filed this last week, SB 94, by Senator Chevron Jones. And he was supposed to be here today. I guess he didn't have a chance to make it, but hopefully we can get him in next week. Basically, though, it says it's an act relating to cannabis offenses, amending that reducing criminal penalties for first, second, and third violation of the offense if the offense is possession of 20 grams or less. And if a person is discovered in connection with the intended use of violations from being considered a criminal act, which means it's not going to be a criminal act anymore. It's going to be it's a decrim bill, and that is, I think, the whole point. And it also says that, of course, that you can't be arrested for the paraphernalia.
this isn't the first time he put up decrim bill, right? I looked him up for a second.
No, it isn't. But I this is a better written one, I think, than the ones we had before, because it gives tiers, and those guys love tiers, as in TIERS. I think they generate the other kind of tiers as well, but to give people, first, second, and third offense kind of thing, and you get a chance to don't screw up twice.
Well, the biggest thing, and I think this bill still has a shortcoming in it. I appreciate Senator Jones for taking leadership on this, but the fact is that as long as the smell of cannabis is probable cause for a search, we're still going to continue to see cannabis arrests in the state of Florida. You're still going to see cops, take the opportunity, especially some of these opportunist officers, to push up their numbers. I mean, there was one deputy in Jackson County, Florida, who was notorious for planting, drugs on people. And he had some of the highest numbers in the state, thousands of lives ruined because of one bad cop. And so I firmly believe that we need to retire drug dogs, and we need to end the smell of cannabis as probable cause for a search. Until we do that, we're still not going to get to the root causes of cannabis arrest in this state and in this country.
And we still have the deal where people often have vape pens in their pocket. Guys, vape pens are considered concentrates.
That's a felony. Yeah.
And that's a felony. And oftentimes that's been the point of convenience. Now they got dablicators out there that make it even easier to carry around very thick distillate and not screw up your backpack kind of situation. But that's another issue altogether.
You guys don't feel that that's like, there was a point in time where, like, joints were a misdemeanor, and cannabis evolved, and they made that.
Oh, sure. Over in Ann Arbor in 1978, it was. John Sinclair was one who was helped pushing that movement. Where we got only a $25 fine if you got caught in the stairwell with a J.
Well, it's the difference that we see, and this is a product of the 90s, with the disparity between cocaine and crack, right? And you see the same disparity between concentrates and flour, in many states still. So
I couldn't get dabs when I went to visit you.
Oh yeah. Well, interesting enough, when I went to New Jersey, back in it was what, a year and a half ago. We did a show, and I showed you some Jersey bud that they're selling legally. The concentrates were only for medical patients. Now they have concentrates, for everybody available in New Jersey. But ironically, you have a city in New Jersey, the second largest city in New Jersey, is now trying to roll back the pre-employment testing for cannabis. So again, we see this cycle of elections matter, who's in office matters, politicians matter. We can have all the progress made rolled back. Even still at the federal level, this push for Schedule 3 could roll back all the progress that we made in one fell swoop and only allow major pharmaceutical companies to sell cannabis and really destroy the existing system. But of course, I'm sure there are some MSOs that will get the opportunity to do this. We're seeing this in the state of Georgia. Georgia is doing something unique, and they're going to have independent marijuana pharmacies in Georgia. And so that's going to be quite
Sounds like a dispensary, though.
It's a retail establishment.
yeah. But I having a licensed pharmacist on staff, you get to call it a pharmacy.
Well, that's something I've actually kind of liked, the fact that we have like what I call a quasi medical program here in the state of Florida, because the medical advice that you get in regards to the use of cannabis usually stops when you leave that doctor who gave you the certification. Because as soon as you walk into an MSO and you ask one of the bud tenders behind the counter, what is good for migraines, what is good for fibromyalgia, what is good for my bad back, they'll look at you and they'll say things like, well, this RSO gummy will knock you out. And that's not exactly the medical opinion I was asking for at that point in time. So, and guys behind the counter, I can't emphasize this enough. This is a medical program. Those guys over in Tallahassee, they will do anything to keep an adult use program from happening. And I guarantee you, when we get to that Supreme Court hearing, which is not too far away right now for the amendment, it is not going to make it through.
Really?
I don't think it'll make it through. I mean, they're going after the word allow. And I love it when they pick on one word,
Allow,
and then they bend it to their will, so to speak. I mean, we had a problem with our home grow bill because it had used the word and versus or and use and that kind of situation. That's how they do things. Everything will turn on a dime for the use of one word.
I mean, I guess it's not a bad thing that it'll get shut down, but what about allow? Isn't
Well, no, Carlos. I think that's the one thing about it, is that for those of us who don't want to see the MSOs corner the market, sure, we think that is a good thing. But if Ashley Moody is successful in striking this down, and then that will also open up the way for her to strike down other amendments. Cannabis could be on the ballot, abortion could be on the ballot. These are the two issues that the Republican Party of Florida does not want on the ballot, because they will lose big time if these two issues are on the ballot.
That's politics for you. The Republican Party used abortion as a wedge issue to push votes their way for so many years, and all of a sudden that was taken away. So they had to find some way to bring it back.
Yeah, I recently came across. I mentioned the petitioner earlier today, but the petition she had was a petition to ban abortion at 6 weeks.
It's ludicrous to think, most people don't even know they're pregnant till they're about 6, 7, maybe even 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that to try and ban it that early, I mean, in Florida, it's already 15 weeks. So even if you do find out you're pregnant in time, you don't even have any time to really think about what your options are, what do you want to do, and that is a decision that for any woman is impactful. The amount of the thought that has to go into that.
Well, shit, there's a campaign paying petitioners for this already. So,
let's get this straight, because there's a lot of public opinion polls that I see as push polls out there, so I don't give them a hell of a lot of credibility. But the preponderance, the meta-analysis of all the polls out there show that cannabis overwhelmingly is accepted now in general society, both in medical use and adult use, provided in a responsible manner, of course. Not blowing in kids' faces, that kind of thing. And also,
more weed.
The polling shows that people are in favor of a woman's right to choose to have an abortion. Yes, there are always going to be people who say, no, you shouldn't do it. And so they have the right to say that. We have a First Amendment thing, and they have the right to say it as many times as they want, and we have just as many rights to not listen to them.
Mhm. Well, looks like Kano had to go.
Either that or he just froze up entirely.
No, he sent a message. He's like, I gotta get out of here.
Oh, okay.
No wife has him driving her to work.
Well, anyways, one thing we haven't had a chance to mention yet, unless he did it before I got here, is the fact that we already have one of our bills filed for this session.
What is it?
That is the Public Employee Protection Bill
Nice, dude.
from Senator Polsky, and I believe that
Been at it for a
Representative
while.
Nixon is going to be doing on the House side, and we are going to. It's already got 3 committees, and it's already being looked at the next conference for the Department of Health Committee. So it is moving forward right now. We'll see how it goes. We definitely need some help on the inside to continue moving this forward, because it is about time they stop criminalizing people for using cannabis as medicine, which is legal in the state of Florida.
Now, your bill, it's not just like government employees, right? It's like everybody.
No, actually, it is just for government
It's just
employees.
for government.
We had to scale it back to that bit, because that is what the legislature can control, and they don't like the idea of having to tell private businesses what to do, so
Yeah.
to speak, and having just cause.
They don't like telling people not to discriminate against marijuana.
But the point is, I think that if government employees are being given the right to use medical cannabis, that sets a social precedent. And that makes it easier for the private businesses to say, well, if the federal government says it's okay, then I can see it as being okay for me, because it's not a detriment to have your employees use cannabis as medicine, because in many, many cases, that's what it makes them healthy enough to get back to work.
Yeah.
So they can earn a living, so they can go ahead and pay their taxes, for God's sakes, and be a good citizen.
A lot of my employees, I prefer to use cannabis because they're happier.
Yeah, that is a good idea, because a happy camper is a good employee, right? Well, at least they don't come in pissed. I mean, nobody who's ever gone postal has ever been high. That is just bottom line. Nobody has come in and shot up their workplace, and I hate to use it in those terms, because that is so kind of violent. But the fact is, if that person may have been on campus at the time, he probably wouldn't have done that. People do crazy things. We had one woman this last week. Oh my goodness, she killed her twin kids, and then she jumped off a bridge. I don't think she was on cannabis.
No.
And obviously she had some issues that were not resolved. And
Well, Gary, it seems like you never heard of Victor Licata.
oh, I know exactly who Victor Licata is.
Chopped his whole family up.
Yeah, you know something.
Here, only blocks away from here.
As a matter of fact, if you look
With
at
an axe.
if you look across the street from this location, it says Licata over the building across the way there. I don't know if you can read it. You can't read it. Anyways, but yeah, the Licata family was there. It is.
Oh, it's covered by the spider web.
Covered by the spider webs. Anyways, but the Licata family was a prominent family in Ybor City back at the turn of the century in the 1920s and so. And they had 2 sons. They had basically what do you call it?
Schizophrenic.
Thank you. Well, they don't call it schizophrenia, but
That's like where you hear voices, right? I thought.
Yeah, exactly. They called it dementia precox at the time, but basically it's a mental disorder that often it kicks you in that way when you're in your late teen years. Again, when you start hearing voices and things of that sort. They were kind of like cousins married cousins at the time too, but that's beside the point. The whole thing is that the father was treating both boys with cannabis, and there was a clampdown on cannabis in the area at that point in time. The supply dwindled, and he did not have access to it. And one night he just took an axe and chopped up his parents. And the police chief even said he did not believe that cannabis had anything to do with the crime when they found it in the house. However, Harry Anslinger was the guy who came and used it as part of his Gore files to push the criminalization of cannabis, not only in the United States but in the world when he went to the UN. And that was all the Licata story. He eventually was put in prison. He escaped and was out for what, maybe 10, 15 years. And when he got back to his medicine and continued using it, they caught him. He went back to prison and hung himself.
Dang.
And once again, when product can be used as medicine, especially when in regards to mental disorders,
Mm.
uh, it can be a good thing. It can keep your employees happy, but it can also keep the employees well enough and sharp enough to have high performance. And that is really the reason that people should be hired or fired, and that is performance on the job.
So I always go back to that airplane pilot example. And like it sounds crazy. I sound crazy for saying it. But somebody asked me once if I would ride in a plane where I knew the pilot had just smoked a joint. I was like, shit, I probably just smoked the joint with him.
You know,
But-
a lot of airline pilots have come from the military as well, and a lot of folks in the military have PTSD. We had a situation here in the Tri-County area a couple of years ago that I discussed briefly with Sheriff Chronister, that we had people who were first responders and policemen and firefighters who had seen things they could not unsee. And in one case, the guy had retired as a resource officer because his PTSD was just out of control. They had him come back because of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas thing and work. And within about a week or two, with the intense pressure of keeping a vigilant eye out for school shooters and things of that sort, he killed his grandkids and himself afterwards. Our first responders are precious commodities, and oftentimes their PTSD is gone untreated properly. Sometimes they get yoga and meditation and some cognitive therapy, which again is just not working for so many people. And yet the medication which has been shown to work for PTSD, they don't get access to because they're worried about how it might affect their performance. Well, damn it, as an amendment to our bill, we have a study set up to prove that first responders, when they use cannabis, when they're off duty and not on call, can perform just as well, if not better, than their coworkers.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, they can.
That's the way it is, and that's one of the bills that we are pushing.
I want to smoke weed with a firefighter.
Yeah, you like hanging out with firefighters. You think you're so buff.
I don't think I'm buff.
No, the firefighters.
Oh, because I like buff men.
There you go. We're not going to get into that or into the drag shows you have at your other store.
You like the drag show. You enjoyed it.
They were very They're very popular. They're very entertaining. They're skilled entertainers. Let's put it that way. They weren't hacks.
It was the highlight of the grand opening. Was the drag show.
And now yesterday, your event. Just explain exactly what was the basis of that.
It's just to be able to be in a social environment that's not centered around alcohol. That's really all it was. To celebrate each other and to have good drinks, but not get drunk. That's really all it is. It's a happy hour where you just. I'm sick and tired of alcohol culture, man. I've owned this store in Ybor City for so long. I used to drink a lot. I can't even have one beer at this point. And yeah, I think it's important that our society doesn't revolve socially around alcohol. I think it's important that we find some other things.
Well, I had a friend who was an imbiber of sorts, and he would say that I drink to forget, and I smoke to remember.
Well, a lot of people forget because of marijuana, don't they? Well, short-term
memory, yeah, but the long-term memory, you get some amazing thoughts on sativa.
And you got kava and kratom bars, which are great places. Like I really have no issue with them. I don't sell kava and kratom at Chillum, but it's not my deal. You know what I mean? So I think there should be places that efforts to promote such things. And I think I think it was pretty cool. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we should also be promoting more access to medical cannabis. And one of the problems that doctors have is that they have to put down the exact conditions that you have to show that you can get a certification to get cannabis, and yet sometimes you don't exactly fit the mold because they only have 10 conditions, and that there's not only 10 conditions that go after
But
the human psyche.
that's the thing too, is like, okay, so those 10 conditions are protected. I get that, but isn't there that like clause, I guess you'd say, that the doctor has the right to consider a condition just as debilitating as any of these other conditions?
Basically, it has to be of a like or similar nature. But the question is that the problem is that is such a vague uh, explanation that those people in the board of medicine and things of that sort can actually knock it down by saying, no, I don't think that a chronic anxiety syndrome is exactly the same as PTSD because there's different triggers and things of that sort. So those things can be debated, and I don't think there should be a debate when it comes to your thing. Now, it's always good to have a second opinion when it comes to medical things are concerned, but what we really need to do is lay out more qualifying conditions like autism, like sickle cell anemia, things that don't fit the mold of the current 10 conditions and the vague 10th one, I should say. So we
I'm
do
gonna
have a
look up
bill
the 10
that
conditions.
expands the number of qualifying conditions. Oh, you're putting up the bill?
No, I'm
You're putting up a
looking
picture of Matt Gates to show how much I look exactly like him?
no, I'm just looking up. No, I need to think, Gary.
Short-term memory lapse?
Marijuana condition.
See, this is why I don't dab just before the show.
I was hoping that you would just like, it says 15 here.
But there is not 15. They only have the 10.
Google. God damn it.
Yeah,
All right.
there you go.
Cancer, epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV, AIDS, seizures, Crohn's disease, chronic muscle spasms, post-traumatic stress disorder,
ALS.
ALS, I can't pronounce that, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis.
Okay, so where's autism? Where's chronic anxiety syndrome? Where's sickle cell anemia? There are so many other conditions that are. Where is specifically fibromyalgia? Again, those kind of things that people have to deal with, and so we want to expand the number of qualifying conditions. That is being filed again this session, depending on who picks it up.
It's almost like any neurological disorder, like ADHD, autism, things like that. Like, there's really, I see what you're saying. This is horseshit.
That's just the way it is. And the other bills that we have that we are going to be pushing heavy this session, and again we'll bring these highlighted to you later on. One of which is our Medical Patient Protection Act, which basically states that if you are in a institution like an ALF or a hospital, things of that sort, and you want to use your medicine that's been working for you, then you should be allowed to do it. Basically, just by saying that if you're using it in the institution, it's not considered illicit. A lot of institutions, if they get Medicare, Medicaid, federal funds, say, well, because it's federally illegal, we can't do it because we're going to lose funds. This would allow them to go ahead and do that. And also, even that's almost more importantly, it prevents you from being kicked off a transplant list. What?
The firefighters.
Shiny squirrel. Anyway. So
I like this. It's just like we're just having like a conversation.
Yeah, so you can't be kicked off a transplant list for using cannabis, and the argument against that was saying that their survivability was lessened by using cannabis, and there is multiple medical reports that actually states that survivability is actually increased.
I'm never gonna die
by the use of cannabis. Well, then I'll see you in the next century.
because all I do is dab. Yeah, Gary Bear, what else you got? You got any other bills?
We actually happen to have a bill for reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
For those of you who don't understand that word, basically that means that if you come from any other, if you go to another state right now that has medical cannabis, you can take your medical card from Florida and you can go ahead and purchase there, even if they don't have an adult use program yet.
And you can come on vacation and leave on probation
in Florida.
in
Absolutely.
Florida.
That's why they invented spring break, I think.
Yeah. So like people, all these college students get arrested in Florida because they buy marijuana, illegal marijuana on spring break.
Or they bring it across the border with them when they come in their truck with the all the beer in the back.
Yeah, bring it. The point is that they got marijuana and they get arrested for it,
And our bill allows
and
people
it's
to go to
medicine.
our people. It allows people to go to a dispensary and buy cannabis on a limited basis for the time that they spend there, and they have to, of course, use it all before they leave.
Mm,
Which is how all the other states work it as well.
yeah.
So why not Florida, one of the tourist capitals of the world? And it would increase the amount of tourism, and it would also prevent people from having to skip their vacation because grandma was sick and she needs her medicine.
No, and I hear you. Whenever I go to another state, I purposely buy a lot of marijuana just because that last day is gonna get crazy.
And then you try to hide the rest of it under the floorboards or in the wheel well, whatever.
I eat it all,
Wheel well, not a good place to store it.
and I typically buy like I buy like a rig, like a small rig, and I try to figure out who I'm gonna bless with a rig before I. Sometimes I end up having to throw it away.
That is a shame. But we need reciprocity in Florida. This is something they should have put into the bill in 2017. And there's a lot of other things they should have put into the bills in 2017 when they started this whole program that we still haven't got. Like, for instance, I don't know, let's say home grow. Yeah, I actually have a bill that would create a system for home grow that would allow legislators to know exactly how much you're growing and how much you're harvesting, so that
Now,
they don't have to worry that you're passing it out to the kids again, or that you're letting kids go through your garden and pull a couple buds out on
now,
the way home
now,
from school.
no, I'm not trying to knock it, but this isn't necessarily a home grow bill, though, right? Like this is like there's a facility that's under the watch of a license holder. So like
And you get expert tutelage so that the product that is growing is medical grade,
yeah,
as opposed to throwing seeds in your backyard, which could have heavy metals in it that are being sucked into the roots.
that was the word I wanted to hear you say, tutelage.
It's a nice word. It's got a nice kind of phraseology to it. Expert tutelage. Like being a professor of cannabisology, which is where you were when I first met you, teaching people how to grow peppers and tomatoes, pretending that it's cannabis.
I'm still a professor of cannabisology.
But we need home grow. With all due respect to the folks who are trying to push the home grow bill, that home grow petition right now, they don't have the support, unfortunately, to be able to push it through. I mean, this home grow, this recreational bill, quote unquote, or whatever legalization bill that is out there right now that's heading towards the Supreme Court.
Responsible adult use, Gary.
Yeah, responsible adult use. There you go. It
I gotta stop getting like super high before the shows, especially the shows that Kano has to leave in the middle of.
Absolutely. Well, the whole point is we know that the bill that's currently in front of the Supreme Court has had $35 million in backing, and the home grow bill, which, and by the way, can't be in the recreational bill because it would make it a two subject bill, and therefore in Florida won't be passed through to a petition. So that's just an amendment. That's just the way it is. And then you guys would think, oh, I'm not going to vote for anything that doesn't have home grow in it. Sorry, dude, that's the law. That's just the way they do it here in Florida. And we have to have over 60%. So if you want to vote for it, vote for it. That I think it's up to the people. Carlos and I aren't in complete agreement with the phrasing of the bill because it gives a lot of the power to the current corporations that are in control of the product right now here in the state of Florida. It doesn't allow for small businesses.
We agree that. Did you say we disagree?
No, we agree.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, we agree that this is a bad bill.
Yeah,
yeah,
and. But the bottom line is, let bring it to the public. Let the public decide. I think that's the most important thing. But don't vote against it because it hasn't got home grow in it, because it can't have
Florida public is idiots. They're dumb.
Well, another bill that we
I think that might hurt our status as a Florida nonprofit, but I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, there's a lot of new people in Florida, and I don't think that they're qualified to vote on anything scientific.
Well, it's funny because the legislators, they always say, we wrote this bill by following the science, and then they quote some study which has already been debunked,
Yeah.
or they mention Amsterdam as the most conservative approach. Amsterdam, for those people who don't know, have coffee shops where it is actually illegal uh, to have any more than a certain amount on the store. So they have people running back and forth to plugs, bringing the product in constantly, and it's more of a atmosphere of tolerance than it is actual legality.
Yeah.
So, and the people who try to do it legally in Amsterdam, the rules are too stringent. They just don't. So most of the stuff that's in those coffee houses is not fully legal. That's just the way it is. So if you want guys to skirt the law, let's have an Amsterdam model. With all due respect, and we can discuss that with Captain Hooter. We had him on not too long ago, and he showed us the view from his apartment, which was gorgeous in Amsterdam. If
It
you
was
remember.
very pretty.
And he can give us more information on that.
Have you ever been to? This is a weird segment from Amsterdam, but have you ever been to Mount Dora?
Mount Dora, as a matter of fact, I have not. I know where it is.
I've never been there. I know it's around Orlando, but
Well, I know that on the 4th and 5th of November, or at least one of those 2 days, I will be there.
yeah,
I will experience the epicness of what is Mount Dora, which
Well,
is a little town just outside of Orlando.
there will be a cannabis festival there, and apparently it will be on the back of a giant turtle. And you've got some panels going on. Suncoast.
The whole
Normal
world
gonna be
is
there.
on the back of a giant turtle. That's one of the Indian
and they,
indigenous views of the origin of the world.
they got Cano coming out. I think I got to be there like for a day to like work the booth, but
And hopefully he'll move this time.
they got they got you. What is it? You're running a panel.
Yes.
All right, cool. So you're moderating a panel over at the cannabis festival.
They know not what they're into.
It looks like there's a lot of great acts. I mean, I'm a millennial now, so I don't know who any of these people are.
I'm a boomer. I really don't know who any of those people are.
But here's the great thing about the Florida Cannabis Festival happening in Mount Dora from what day to what day?
They don't have Musique Antique, whoever it was called, one of those guys.
It's November 4th and 5th.
Yeah, November 4th and 5th in Mount Dora.
Well, the Florida Cannabis Festival is also sponsoring a HalloWEED event.
Now, let's be clear. Where is the HalloWEED event?
In Chilham, St. Pete, 1916 Central Ave, St.
1916. That's the year that we got out of World War I. That's how I remember that.
1, 2.
Absolutely. And against across the street from the Glass Museum, which is very easy to pick out.
And doors open at 8 p.m.
And what is the cost of this event, Bob?
$10 for general admission. But if you're a Suncoast Normal member, you can just mosey on in there.
Okay, so moseying is allowed for members.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a member, feel free to mosey.
You'll be a member for a whole year. There's also other events that we hold throughout the year that you get privileges such as this one.
And costumes are optional. If you want to come in slathered in cream cheese, that's up to you.
Are you going?
It might be illegal.
Are you going to go as the penguin?
I told you I'm going as Matt Gates because people often confuse me with him. It's the haircut.
21 and up, baby. It's 21 and up.
Whatever works.
Matt Gates was not interested in going to our HalloWEED party.
No, I don't think so. He's busy trying to topple the United States legislature,
which I think is a selling point for our party. Matt Gates will not be there.
It's not his district.
And yeah, I don't know. Do we have anything else to promo? Joining the organization?
Yeah, well, actually, we do have that one event coming up in the Big O Market back in December.
What market?
The event over in the Big O Market in Okeechobee.
Oh, I don't have a graphic for it or anything.
Well, we'll have to think about it then.
What is?
Imagine, if you will, a graphic about a event in in Okeechobee in December. We'll be bringing that up to the next thing. Now, I do want to point out a schedule note, and that is that this week on Tuesday we're going to be streaming it live. We'll be repeating it back again this next weekend with the amazing Dr. Ethan Russo, who is essentially the developer of the entourage effect, one of the main proponents of it, to discuss a number of things in regards to cannabis and terpenes and cannabinoids derived from hemp and things of that sort from a scientific basis. This guy is probably one of the most important researchers here in the United States about those issues. And if you have any questions in regards to him, feel free to send them to us by email, and we'll be glad to pose them to him. Because there's a lot of things going on, including people creating synthetic cannabis pills that 180 Labs has been doing. That's I think is a bit of concerning to me.
Really?
Well, I think I believe very much in the entourage effect. That basically, the THC may be the engine, but the terpenes are the steering wheel. And without the steering wheel, you're not going anywhere fast.
That is a wonderful way to explain the endocannabinoid system.
That's basically because Marinol, which was that first product that was brought out that was synthetic THC, a lot of people had anxiety attacks because of that. Because the THC would basically drove you right into a wall, if you want to use the auto analogy again. So we're looking forward to our conversation with Dr. Ethan Russo, and getting a little scientific and a little. I guess I'm going to have to be more respectful and not use as many 4 and 5 word letter words.
Fuck.
Yeah, fuck me if I go ahead and
Let
go
me
off on
press
that.
the bleep. Fuck.
There you go.
Shit. Cock. Cunt. Shit. I'm getting it all out now, so I won't do it with Ethan Russo.
Okay. Blunt is not one of those words, though, right?
Pass the motherfucking blunt.
There you go. Okay. Anyway,
Gary motherfucking Stein.
now, as Carlos mentioned, the HalloWEED party is free for members, and we haven't mentioned
Shit is free, yo.
how to become a Suncoast member. Go to suncoastnormal.org/membership, and I do mean slash. And go ahead and join up. You get what with your $25?
You get a fucking gold pin. You get a year of fucking benefits and event fucking benefits like the fucking weed party. What else could I say here?
And we get to go to Tallahassee and deal with the fucking legislators, which sometimes they are, which gets them in trouble, by the way. But
and all proceeds go to the legalization of motherfucking marijuana.
Yeah, the right way.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we before I lose my earring on my left ear, we call it a day. And we want to thank you for joining the conversation and being part of the rotation.
Bye, everybody.